This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
Ever wonder where Tropicana got its name? The tropics. And every time you enjoy a glass, you're not just drinking juice, you're taking a trip. Stepping into sunshine and embarking on a flavorful journey into the tropics where ripe fruit is crafted into wildly delicious juice. And the best part? No passport required. Tropicana. Give life some juice.
Hello, True Spies listeners. Welcome back. You're joining us as we venture into the vaults to revisit some of your favourite episodes from our collection. We hope you enjoy this classic True Spies rendezvous. We think it's well worth catching up with. This is True Spies, the classics, from Spyscape Studios.
Disclaimer: this episode features strong language throughout.
Incoming transmission.
Welcome to True Spies. Week by week, mission by mission, you'll hear the true stories behind the world's greatest espionage operations. You'll meet the people who navigate this secret world. What do they know? What are their skills? And what would you do in their position? This is True Spies.
In the center of the timeline is an explosion. To the right is the fallout, the deaths, the destruction. To the left is everything you could have been doing to prevent that from happening.
This is True Spies. Hunting the Wolverine. The desert wants you dead. It's scorching by day, freezing by night, and brimming with poisonous beasties in a kaleidoscope of shapes, sizes, and temperaments. And that's at the best of times. As a military helicopter whips the sand into a frenzy, it becomes apparent that these are not those times.
I was terrified, and then we landed at my location, and I was standing in a desert all by myself, going, what have I just got myself into?
Specifically, it's 2010. The United States is spearheading the latest surge of military action in Afghanistan.
The CIA is at the tip of the spear. They're going further than where SEAL Team 6 goes. This shit's crazy.
This week's True Spy has just landed in the south of the war-torn country. Where exactly, he can't say. And that's not just because it's dark out.
They had taken away my night vision when I got off the helo because it belonged to the helo and for other passengers, and so I couldn't see anything. Hey, surprise to your audience, there's no night lights in a desert in Afghanistan.
He's en route to his first foreign posting, a CIA black site built on the husk of an abandoned Soviet prison.
Afghanistan's often referred to as the graveyard of empires.
Persians, Greeks, Mongols, Sikhs, Americans, Russians, and Brits. They all came to Afghanistan. They're not there anymore. Douglas Laux, more than most, understands why that is.
My name's Douglas Laux, former CIA case officer. I did that for 7 years, and then I got out and I worked for Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC, which is essentially SEAL Team 6, Delta Force, like the 75th Rangers.
Douglas Laux is no stranger to the edge. During his time in the CIA, he served in some of the world's most dangerous theaters of war. His story is a remarkable one, but it begins unremarkably in what less charitable commentators dub the flyover states.
I grew up in the Midwest, in the states of Indiana and Ohio, right on the border. You could throw a baseball from one state to the other. as you become an adult. If through your childhood and adolescence, you grew up in a rural farming community amidst trailer parks, it's certainly going to have a great influence on who you become later in life. And so with that being said, the most premier jobs within a 50-mile radius would have been something like doctor or veterinarian or, I guess, plant manager of a local factory. So if you had real aspirations and you were smart, you probably were going to try to be a doctor. So of the, 500-600 students in my class alone, I think 3 of us went to college. And even that was considered really special. And so I was amongst those 3, and it was my idea to become an eye doctor.
Which begs the question, what happened?
Why did I choose to become this war zone case officer right from the jump off? Why did I choose the most dangerous locations you could possibly go to? Why did I stop becoming an eye doctor and switch my track to political science and learn Japanese? Why did I have a bid from the Marines to enter officer candidate school?
That's a lot of questions. And the answer? Like many of our true spies, the 9/11 attacks on New York were a pivotal moment for Douglas.
But kind of rewired everything inside me. And my father was a Vietnam veteran. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get this over with, this college thing, because I know I'll need it someday. But then I'm going to join the Marines and become an officer in the Marines and go fight. And that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to go fight. My dad did it. 3 of my uncles have done it. I have cousins that are in the mix. I got to at least do something. I got to get involved in this, man. I have to. So no, not anger, and I don't want to come off as the vengeful type. It wasn't that, I got to get revenge for them hitting the Twin Towers. It was, man, we're at war, and it's my country. And, I love the United States, and so I'm going to go get it on too.
For a young man looking for frontline action, the US Marines are a sound option. But fate, if you believe in that sort of thing, had other plans.
Only by a caprice did I happen to see a flyer that said the CIA was coming to my university to give a speech. And then the guy gave a speech. He was catcalled from the back the entire time about drones and waterboarding. He could barely get a word out. And he said, okay, if you're interested, apply online. And I did.
The life Douglas chose began early one morning in his final year of college.
The initial phone call I remember distinctly because I had went out to some party the night before on a Thursday night. And I got a phone call at 8:01 a.m. I answer my cell phone and it's a woman who's like, hey, you applied for a job with the federal government. I just want to talk to you about that. And I was like, hey, lady, I don't know if you know, but it's 8:05 in the morning now. So what are you doing calling me? This is really early. I'm a college student and this is kind of harassment. And she's like, we're with the Central Intelligence Agency. And I literally said, oh, fuck, the CIA? This is the CIA calling me? Oh my God, the CIA? Oh, you're the CIA. And she's like, please stop. Please stop. Please stop saying that. I'm like, what, CIA? And she's like, yes, that. Don't say that. Oh, don't say CIA. And she's like, what are you doing Monday at this time? I will call you back when you have had time to think about your decision. And I was like, oh, you're going to call me Monday at 8? So I was like, oh, no, you can't do that to me. But she was like, yes, Monday at 8, please be prepared to talk, intelligently about the process. And so it took off from there.
As True Spies listeners know, the CIA's hiring process is long, thorough, and arduous. For Douglas, it lasted well over a year. But eventually, he passed the agency's battery of physical, intellectual, and psychological tests. And, crucially, learnt to keep his mouth shut.
I knew not to say CIA out loud, and I was like, oh, you guys are with that organization in Virginia, near the Potomac River. Yes, I do accept your offer.
Now in his mid-20s, Douglas was ready to take the fight to the enemy. But unsurprisingly, the CIA doesn't make a habit of dropping its new recruits into war zones.
When I first got accepted in the CIA, you start out as a trainee. They start everyone off on the same starting line and you're at nothing. You know nothing. The biggest difference between myself and a lot of the other case officers was, and I have to always be careful because I still have mad respect for them. They're risking their lives too, just as I did. And it's a very dangerous job and it's a very difficult job and a very trying job. But like I said, given how I grew up, how I was raised, and in the environment I was raised in, a lot of shit that bothered them didn't bother me. So dealing with nasty people, I was used to that. Dealing with really poor people, the Afghans, the Taliban, really impoverished people, I was used to that. Dealing with crass people, dealing with mean people.
But all that lay ahead of him. As a trainee, he was expected to curtail his adrenaline junkie instincts.
So, look, I started off on a desk. I did not like it. But I've also said previously, now with perspective, I understand why. Because you needed to see how those who were trained were doing it. And you got to read their files every day. And they would write back to headquarters.
From behind his desk, Douglas watched and learned.
It was hyper beneficial because you really also, more than seeing how to do it correctly, what was incorrect. And if you're sitting on a desk and you get pissed at something that a field operative sends in, it's always because they didn't give you enough information. So they might say something like, Tom came to the meeting. He was 20 minutes late. He didn't show up with the disc. He seemed disheveled. We agreed to meet again in 3 days. And I'm reading that going, why was he late? Did you ask? Why was he disheveled? Did you ask? And by the way, if you did, good, but you need to tell us that. You need to tell headquarters that so we don't immediately send you a screamer back that says, fire him. Fire him immediately for being late. Fire him immediately for being disheveled. Fire him immediately for not bringing what he said he would bring. So yeah, I was always hyper aware of that you need to really explain every single thing you do and decision you make, and also your opinions.
All the while, Douglas is taking courses in tradecraft at the farm, the agency's legendary training facility. He graduates. Now he feels ready for the good stuff. The messy, dirty work of warfighting.
I got out of the farm, thought I was super high speed, but I also had a big advantage, and that was is that I really learned their bureaucracy while I was there as a trainee, and I knew how to navigate it, and I knew what to avoid and what I could do to kind of sweeten the deal. And so when I got out of the farm, I said, hey, I want to go to a war zone, and in fact, only Afghanistan. Oh, and in fact, not in Kabul. Oh, and in fact, I want to be sent to the Pashtun areas in the south or the east, the tribal areas, because I want to mix it up with the Taliban. And they're like, yeah, no, actually, you're going to Baghdad, Iraq. And that didn't sit well with me.
As this episode goes on, you'll learn something about Douglas Laux. He generally gets what he wants.
I kind of almost threatened to quit. I said I would take leave without pay, LWAP. And I said, okay, I'll just sit out for a year. And then when you're ready to send me to Afghanistan, I'll go. Now, that's a really risky move. And they're like, all right, well, we can probably just fit you into the gorge of Kabul and get you amongst everyone there. And I said, no, I want to go to a forward operating base.
A forward operating base, or a FOB, is one of the means by which the US government projects its influence throughout an occupied territory. They range from basic barbed wire encampments to well-equipped military hubs. In Afghanistan, FOBs allowed American forces to maintain a presence in the nation's wilder reaches.
So then there was more discussion, and then finally they said, how would you like to learn Pashto? And I said, well, what is that? And they tell me, okay, that's what the Taliban speaks, big boy, and that's who you want to go fight. So why don't you take a year of language training, master Pashto, and then we'll probably definitely send you to a FOB with the opportunity of going to a black site. And so for me, I said, sign me up for that language training immediately, because that is just a force multiplier. It'll make me a better officer, and it's going to probably, and did, help keep me alive.
Eventually, Douglas's efforts paid off.
I first learned that I was going to Afghanistan around New Year's Eve because it was the coast bombing. And that's when seven CIA officers were killed in coast in eastern Afghanistan. So when that happened, I got accelerated because I wasn't supposed to leave for like another 6 months. So I was with my girlfriend trying to cook up some sort of scheme to explain to her why I was leaving, because she didn't know I worked for the CIA. Imagine trying to tell your girlfriend of like 3 years at that time, hey, I'm moving out of Washington, D.C. forever. This has been great. Can we try to still make it work? Oh, by the way, I can only call you maybe once a month. Do you think we'll last maybe if I write you a cute letter twice a year? Oh, you're mad? Why are you mad? Oh, I guess we break up then? They think you're a psychopath.
Fair warning. If you're thinking about pursuing an exciting new career with the agency, know that it doesn't come without sacrifices. For Douglas, there was no time to ruminate on his personal life. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. He was going to grab it with both fists.
So I fast-tracked, and within no time I was in Afghanistan. The first thing you notice is the smell. It really smells in Kabul, and a reason for that is because a lot of the Afghans burn feces for heat, and it goes into the air, and there's a lot of pollution and fecal matter in the air at any given time, and it's acrid. But after a while, I had this seasoned dude tell me, you'll get used to it, and that's when you know you're a vet, because you don't smell it anymore.
But the pungent charms of Kabul were none of his concern. He wouldn't be staying long.
From there, because I was going to a forward operating base, you take several other flights. It's a really long time. It's very difficult. By various means of transportation, I really can't say specifically, nor would I.
Which brings us back to the desert, in the cold and the pitch blackness of nighttime in rural Afghanistan. Douglas stepped out of the helicopter, closing off the penultimate leg of his journey to the fob.
And the stars weren't out that night, so you can see about 1 foot in front of you. And if you can see your hand, you're lucky. And then, a truck pulled up, get in, and I was like, oh, right on, these are my guys.
The truck deposited the young case officer inside the guarded gates of his new home.
My first office was a former Russian prison we operated out of. It's pretty scary, but then eventually you're like, this is pretty badass. This is exactly what I wanted.
The fob's true name is classified. For the purposes of this podcast, we'll call it Wadi Base. Once Douglas has settled in so much as one can settle into a desert prison, he set about fulfilling his function as a war zone case officer. That is, to develop and recruit sources of actionable intelligence within the local population. As the weeks turned into months, and Douglas learnt more about his new home, he found himself at odds with the agency's mission in Afghanistan.
Osama bin Laden, one man, was always the number one thing on everyone's mind.
Remember, this is 2010, a year before the 9/11 mastermind was killed in Pakistan. The US intelligence community spared no expense in his pursuit. But Douglas argued that the CIA's focus on bin Laden and al-Qaeda came at a cost, that the real threat to American lives came from elsewhere.
What I had found was the Taliban for the agency was not a priority. And let me clarify and say that is my perspective. I am certain that the agency would come back and say, that's bull. We were hyper-focused on it. Well, I'll only speak for myself. No, they were not, because I was the one guy who was really pushing it. And because I was at these forward operating bases and there was no al-Qaeda anywhere to be found. And so I was really butting heads with management at the time because I was telling them, the people killing U.S. soldiers are Taliban. The people planning all the IEDs are Taliban. So we're in their backyard right now. The people fighting in the groves with AK-47s, firing RPGs, they're Taliban. The people self-detonating and blowing up girls' schools in Kabul are the Taliban. They're the number one threat to taking soldiers' lives. ISAF lives. So the whole community, not just Americans, any country they're fighting, the Taliban is killing you, is what I was banging on my drum.
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Bring a date, your squad, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
IEDs, improvised explosive devices, were the scourge of the coalition forces in Afghanistan.
IEDs were obviously the biggest issue and biggest problem when it comes to casualties, injuries, death, destruction of both buildings, civilians. And I'll speak for Afghanistan because I know the figures. I think it's something like 88% or something of deaths of servicemen and women that were done by the enemy. So not accidental casualties, but what a police detective would call homicide. That's via an IED, via an explosion. Whether it's vehicle-borne, VBIED, or a human did it, or they placed it along the side of the road, pressure plate IED or a remote detonated IED. So it was, without question, the biggest problem, but at times it wasn't our biggest focus, especially when Osama bin Laden was still around.
Douglas began to aggressively hone in on the Taliban in his area of southern Afghanistan. He was determined to disrupt the supply of weapons that were killing his brothers and sisters in arms.
The title of my book is Left of Boom. And what that means in military speak, or as we say in the U.S., Pentagonese, it's everything that's done to prevent a bomb from exploding. So on a timeline, in the center of the timeline is an explosion. To the right is the fallout, the deaths, the destruction. To the left is everything you could have been doing to prevent that from happening. Because once it's right of boom, you're just counting. You're doing forensics, but you didn't stop the casualties.
To get left of boom, Douglas needed to follow each IED explosion to its logical starting point, the person who built or supplied the device.
So I wanted to be left of boom, far left of boom. And so I just kept traveling down that timeline, running through various, developmentals, people that I was turning and burning.
Turning and burning is a catchy bit of jargon, but it neatly describes the process of recruiting sources and using them to access more valuable ones. And in Afghanistan, value was the name of the game.
Everything in Afghanistan, you learn very quickly, is trying to kill you. And so if that's your mindset from birth, it was a struggle, that obviously is going to influence how you're raised, and it's going to very much influence your mindset of how you approach the world and how you interact with people. And oh, by the way, they want to get out of this environment because they're survivalists. Let's say if they're cousins in the Taliban and I come to you and say, I'll give you $500 for a cell phone number, they're going to go, what are you going to do? We're not going to talk about this again. I'll give you $500 for his cell phone number. I think you're going to arrest him. $500. Okay, here it is. And you look at that and go, oh my God, that's terrible. But in their mind, it's like, okay, but that person had to suffer for me to coexist, because we can't both exist on the same plane. If you chase two rabbits, you'll lose them both. So better him than me.
In short, money talks. And so did a variety of local assets, once Douglas started flashing the black budget. But even in Afghanistan, money only gets you over the finish line. To enter the race at all, you need to be on the racetrack.
The only reason I got the opportunity to know some things that other people didn't is because I did take the risks. I put myself in their environment, and few people did that.
Douglas speaks the local language. That's a good start. But if you want to earn the people's trust, respect at least, there's so much more to consider. Personal grooming, for one.
I looked like them. I had a two-fister beard, and that means you can take two fists and that's how long your beard is. So I grew a two-fister, and they don't manicure their beards in Afghanistan. I'm sure you've seen the footage. So you just don't shave it. You don't touch it, period. So it gets pretty gnarly. Dressing like the locals is ingratiating, but also it helps you with what's called the first pass. Meaning, if I'm driving in a vehicle and we're going 30 through, pick the town in Afghanistan, and I have a two-fister and I have your clothes on, and I tan pretty dark, that's first pass. They don't look twice. People are going to just assume, yeah, he belongs here.
Douglas also worked with an Afghan interpreter to learn the local dialect of Pashto, as well as the customs and cultural markers distinct to the region.
How should I sit? How should I drink my tea? How should I present the tea? What should we eat? Why is he wearing that 3/4 prayer cap when the last guy wore a full prayer cap? Does that mean he's higher in the mosque than him? Oh, he's a teacher at the masjid. So that's why it's, okay, important to know. Because I wouldn't have thought to ask the question to your asset, but I can ask this interpreter who's basically my cultural advisor. So that really, and reading the Quran with him and just having basic concepts of that and a basic working knowledge of the Quran. Yeah, so blending in, that's kind of what you're paid to do.
His hard work paid off. Soon, Douglas was processing a huge amount of information from his local assets. With each turn and burn, he got closer to the Taliban's top brass.
I had to learn, okay, if this guy says that he has access to that Taliban area where all the Taliban guys live, okay, do you know anyone in the Taliban? No, but my cousin does. Okay, bring me your cousin. Hey, cousin, who do you know? I know the guy who delivers their fruit once a week. Great, bring him me. Hey, so you have access to their compound? Great. You have a cousin who's in there? Bring me him. Oh, hey, cousin, you don't want to work for me? Well, how about this money? Okay, so now you do want to work for me. Okay, how many friends do you have? Bring me all of them one by one. A Taliban commander? I'll go meet him. Where does he want to meet? Just starting at the lowest hanging fruit and building my way up, but not wasting my time with them. That's a rut that you can really get into as a case officer, of taking that mid-level reporting and being satisfied with it, where somebody's telling you, I spoke with the Taliban commander and these are his plans. My thought was, he can tell me directly what his plans are. Bring him to me.
Eventually, Douglas struck gold.
Finally, it came that I met a gentleman named Mahmoud, and he flipped everything upside down because he informed me, where I had thought previously that there was some organization within the Taliban that was responsible for manufacturing these detonators and these initiators and, the explosives themselves. It was a independent enterprise. It was a businessman, somebody who had his own personal mafia. And he was the furthest point left of Boom, where it was all originating from. And so that's when it became my priority, and I got the blessing of headquarters to make the Wolverine operation my main focus.
Mahmoud, Douglas's latest and greatest asset, is nothing less than a Taliban commander. He has the kind of access case officers dream about. Now he's working for Uncle Sam.
So once Mahmoud had established for certain that he is a Taliban commander with photos and all this other evidence that checked out, I knew I had a pretty big fish on my hands. And he was in some pretty high-level meetings. And as with almost everything is, I don't want to call it luck because you make your own luck, but kind of on a caprice, he mentioned offhandedly he had some shipment coming in or something like this. Of what?
What exactly the shipment contained was a harder question to answer than you might imagine. The Pashto language is complex. The Foreign Service Institute, where US spies and diplomats learn foreign tongues, ranks it in their highest tier of difficulty, alongside Arabic and Mandarin. It bears the legacy of Afghanistan's various occupations in the form of loanwords, or cognates from other languages.
If it's not a cognate, they have to make up their own word for technology. So they don't know the term for blasting cap, and they don't know the term for initiating device, and they don't know the word for Semtex or C4. And so there was an entire lexicon that we had to put together via when you're intercepting their ICOM traffic radio. And I think they used to call RPGs giraffes because they're long. You know what I mean? They had animal names, right? And they might refer to a pressure plate IED as hornets, because when you step on a hornet's nest, hornets fly up. When you step on a pressure plate IED, explosion comes up. So, just understanding what they were talking about. And I honestly don't remember the word, but he was talking about an initiator.
A fuse, an essential component in the construction of IEDs.
He was explaining what these were, and I was like, oh, fuck, he's talking about getting initiators. And I'm like, what do they look like? Bring me some. So we did. And I was like, whoa, yeah. That's exactly what I thought you were talking about. Who'd you get these from? So he told me, and I said, well, where'd he get them from? And then he told me. And so we started together. That's how it all initially began. I had an EOD, a bomb expert, look at what he had. And he was like, dude, these are very legit. And these are very nice. And these are very complex. And so then it was like, okay, well, where the hell are they being manufactured? How is he getting nice stuff?
Eventually, Douglas's line of questioning led him to a shadowy figure working alongside, but separately from, the Taliban. The Wolverine.
So once we started to figure out going left on that timeline where it was originating, we had this watershed breakthrough moment where he tells me about the Wolverine, which is a code name I made up for this person.
Mahmoud was shocked that the Wolverine wasn't already on the agency's radar.
He's like, how do you not know Wolverine? Everyone knows Wolverine. And I'm like, I've never heard of him. Who is he? Is he a Taliban commander? No. And I'm like, okay, what does he do? And he's like, well, he's the guy that gets us what we need. As far as what? I don't know, guns, ammunition, bombs. So basically, he's an arms dealer. And that's what this guy does. And he specializes in selling his arms to the Taliban. And he's got his own little mafia and his own little protectorate. And the Taliban, who could wipe the guy out if they want to, they let him exist because he's got connections overseas in foreign countries that he can get this stuff from. The Taliban's not that sophisticated, but this guy is. I'm like, oh my God, we had no idea.
He can't tell us exactly how. That's classified. But Douglas was able to corroborate Mahmoud's intelligence.
And we got the number for the Wolverine. So yes, we do listen to our enemy's phone calls. We were listening to the Wolverine's phone. Why wouldn't we? If we had had Osama bin Laden's phone, we would have listened to it and known exactly where he was and saved a lot of money.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
With this information, Douglas was able to build a profile of the Wolverine, including his address.
And the Wolverine made a very smart decision to move out of Afghanistan.
Again, we can't disclose which country the Wolverine decamped to. All we can tell you is that the US wasn't currently at war with it.
And so if he flees into any other country, we can't just send SEAL Team 6 to go get him. I mean, yes, we did that with Osama bin Laden, but that required the President of the United States to be informed every step of the way. With Wolverine, it wasn't that high level.
So your target is essentially untouchable. He's out of your jurisdiction, But the roadsides, army bases, and marketplaces of Afghanistan are still very much within his. Every IED that he supplies to Taliban insurgents costs lives. The timeline is moving closer to the center. How do you stay left of boom when the brick wall of international diplomacy blocks your path?
We just had to wait and see if he would come into Afghanistan, and he never did.
Clearly, a new approach was in order. Remember Mahmoud, Douglas's tame Taliban commander? Well, he was about to make himself even more useful.
So we came up with the idea that, fine, we will just get Mahmoud to be his best friend. So that basically it's a one-to-one relationship.
If Mahmoud could get close to the Wolverine, he'd be able to provide up-to-date information about the flow of IEDs into Afghanistan. But he can't just show up at the Wolverine's doorstep. He needs an in, a golden opportunity to inveigle himself into the arms dealer's circle. Eventually, just such an opportunity arose.
Wolverine had 3 lieutenants, 3 captains. They got in a big argument, and one of the guys shot and killed one of the other guys of the 3. The other guy who shot him fled. Wolverine was down to basically one subordinate, one adjutant, one main guy he could direct things to then disperse. So when I found that out through Mahmoud, I was like, you become one of them. Tell him. And he's like, I can't just demand it. And I was like, bullshit. You're in the Taliban.
As a high-ranking member of the Taliban, Mahmoud's friendship was valuable. Douglas knew that.
And I was like, can you ever imagine a day where he would come after you and kill you? And he laughed. He's like, no, because we would wipe out his entire family. And I'm like, see? So he needs somebody, and he'd be willing to take you because he knows you're trusted. And you've bought from him before. So he's like, okay. So he did.
Douglas's reasoning was sound, and it didn't take long for Mahmoud to find a place at the Wolverine's right hand, wherever that was. Again, his exact location remains classified. In any case, this was very good news for the CIA.
Mahmoud was sitting next to Wolverine on a daily basis, and pretty soon he's taking surreptitious photos. So now we know directly what he looks like, not from some antiquated photo that somebody alleges is Wolverine. Now we have a trusted source who's going, that's what he looks like as of breakfast this morning. Whoa. Oh, he switches out his phone every 4 days. Here's his new number as of last evening. Whoa.
As well as a positive visual ID on the Wolverine, Mahmoud was able to provide information which allowed the CIA to disrupt IED attacks inside Afghanistan. Now, proceed with extreme caution. If you show your hand, then the whole operation could end in a bust.
Basically, if you just start stopping his entire supply line in the same manner every single time, he's very quickly going to understand he's got a rat. Okay? Obviously, we can't in good conscience allow his explosions to still go off, but we had to come up with clever ways of how to capture each one so that nothing happened. Or maybe it got stopped at the border. Or maybe it was a faulty device that didn't blow up. Or maybe the person in placing it installed it wrong and they blew up. But we had to really control that narrative, because if everything was being stopped at point X, he's going to go, when the hell did they start to decide to stop everything at point X? Fine, we'll move to point Y. And then immediately everything stopped right at point Y. He's going to go, okay, somebody's snitching me out, man. And he's going to do an internal investigation.
Which would not, presumably, end well for Mahmoud.
So we were super clever with that, which I really can't detail. I wish I could, because I owe a lot of props to the people back at headquarters who helped me dream up those ideas and figure out how to keep the momentum.
But until the Wolverine resurfaces in Afghanistan, this is as good as it gets. The CIA can monitor and disrupt, but they can't take kinetic action against his operation. That's kicking down the door and arresting him, to you and me. All the while, the stresses of life at the FOB are taking their toll on Douglas.
I was worn pretty thin, and I didn't know if Wolverine would ever come back into Afghanistan. And so I thought, this could go on for 5 years before he screws up. After 5 years, he's going to think he's invincible. He's going to do something stupid. He's going to go to the Hajj, or he's going to leave his little fiefdom, and we're going to nab him because we got everything. We're going to get him. So it doesn't matter if I stay, and I'm not staying for 5 more years. So I made the decision to pass it on to someone I really trusted at this black site. And then I just started supporting that guy from back at headquarters while I was on R&R, you would say, waiting for my next assignment.
From headquarters in Virginia, Douglas continued to monitor the Wolverine operation.
And during that period, that time frame, he made a mistake. He went to an area where we could touch him, okay? And when we knew he was going there, it was Mahmoud who, let us know, hey, guess what? He's going to this specific area. You guys can nab him. That specific area was still in a foreign country. It was not in Afghanistan, okay? So we had to work with local police force to make that happen. And they did. And the Wolverine was apprehended, and we sent somebody to that foreign country to basically show our crown jewels of why this person was a terrible person and everything they had done. And here's all the evidence and all of the proof. And they said, great, we're locking him up.
A happy ending? Unless you're joining us for the first time on True Spies, you'll know that those are few and far between. Unheard of, almost. So don't get your hopes up.
Fast forward, I went on to start working on the Syrian Civil War, which was hot. This would have been 2012, 2013. ISIS was a big deal. So I switched over to that, and sometime during that frame, learned that the Wolverine had been released. So not a happy ending to this story. What was my biggest success at the agency now was my biggest failure, because he was just straight up released.
The Wolverine had been let go, his captors citing insufficient evidence.
And that was just soul-crushing, absolutely soul-crushing, that I had put 20-hour days in to take this guy off the battlefield, or at very least take his components and his bombs off the battlefield, so some 18-year-old didn't run over it, right? And so it meant a lot to me. And to learn that they just let him go, was absolutely heart-wrenching. But that is the nature of the beast. No one said this story would be pretty, did they?
And there's a final twist to this tale, for those who choose to believe it.
I had reason to believe, and I won't say which one, I'll let you use your imagination, but I had reason to believe he was being supported by basically a different country's version of the CIA. I really felt that, and I felt I had presented enough evidence for that as well. But if you're going to make an accusation like that, that could almost lead to a declaration of war.
This is not the kind of allegation that any intelligence agency can act upon lightly.
That's kind of what my theory was. Well, I think that this host nation's version of CIA is helping the Wolverine, and the Wolverine's giving this to the Taliban, which are killing us. So in a way, and the agency was like, yeah, brother, we almost have to have CCTV on that to come out live, because that's front page New York Times, period. And until you can get us 100%, we can't go around. Thank you for telling us. We're going to keep an eye on it, but we cannot publicly state that at this point in time. And I don't think it ever was stated, which is why I don't really talk about it.
The life of a war zone CO is not an easy one. Between his tour in Afghanistan and his time working on the Syrian Civil War, Douglas struggled with his mental health and substance abuse. He pulled through, but eventually, life in the war zone caught up to him.
I want to be clear. The CIA never pushed me out the door. Never. My burn rate was high, and I knew that, but I wanted to accomplish as much as I could in the time that I knew I had, because I started to think after my second tour, you're not going to do this for 25 years. The final straw though, was Thanksgiving. One year I was in this a Middle Eastern country, and I was working on the Syrian civil war. I had a Thanksgiving dinner us Americans were having at this very nice restaurant in this Middle Eastern country, eating shish kebab for Thanksgiving. That was a first. Everyone was very jovial and laughing and talking about where they were going next and where they planned to live and what car they planned to drive when they were in this next nice foreign country working the cocktail circuit. And, for vacation, we're going to Seychelles. And then, if we get a tour in East Asia, we'll probably end up going to Tahiti. And for me, it was like, dude, being a spy is fucking hard. They're married with kids, so they do have an outlet. And usually their spouse works for the agency as well, so they can talk about things. And so they had outlets, and I didn't. I kept it all bottled up. Again, that's my fault. I should have found an outlet. But yeah, sitting there, they're like, why are you so morose? Why are you so down in the dumps? Why are you so angry? Why are you always so angry, Doug? And I just said, guys, I'm living a different existence than you with regards to this. These are wars that I'm fighting. War. It's not just classic espionage and I meet you in a park and I hand you an envelope and you hand me a thumb drive. I'm getting shot at. I'm getting IDF, indirect fire, mortars. My colleagues are getting killed by explosions or by bullets. They're having to go to the X, not run from it. I'm having a wildly different experience than you guys, and it's so dangerous and it's crippling me. And I have no one to talk to about it. And you guys are talking about, should I get a Mercedes or BMW? That stuff wasn't in my brain. And so I went to the waiter and I paid for the entire bill. And I just said, guys, goodbye. I'll be going home soon and I'm never coming back. I don't want to do this anymore. And with that, I left. And within 3 weeks or so, I think I got back to the United States on Christmas Eve. And I never deployed again. And within a couple months, I was out the door.
After leaving the agency, Douglas worked as a consultant before publishing a memoir in 2016. Since then, he's taken on a number of roles in the television industry, but his time in Afghanistan still looms large. In 2021, coalition forces ended their occupation of the country. What happened next came as no surprise to Douglas.
I never forget the conversation I had with that Taliban commander who said to me, "We'll wait because you will leave. And guess what? If I die, it'll be my son who returns. And if my son dies before you leave, it'll be his son. My grandson will return. But we'll wait because time is on our side, not yours. And you'll eventually leave like everyone else, and we'll be back. We will be back."
Douglas Laux' book, Left of Boom, How a Young Case Officer Penetrated the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, is available now.
Thank you so much for tuning in to True Spies, the Classics, from Spyscape Studios. Disclaimer. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the subject. These stories are told from their perspective, and their authenticity should be assessed on a case-by-case basis. If you're enjoying this podcast, please click now to give it a 5-star rating or leave a review. Ratings and reviews help people discover the podcast and help us bring you more great stories. And if you have some time, why not forward the podcast to a friend?
This episode is brought to you by Google Health. Stop chasing someone else's definition of health. What matters is what's healthy for you. Google Health offers a new kind of coach built with Gemini for effortless tracking, sleep insights, and holistic coaching tailored to you. Visit googlestore.com to learn more and start a new relationship with your health. Requires Google account, Google Health app, internet, and Google Health premium subscription. Features subject to change. Availability and results vary. Not intended for medical purposes. Works independently of Gemini apps. Check responses for accuracy.
Queen Carvania stood haloed by the morning sun. An army hung on her every word.
My champions, I have sold my chariot on Carvana. 'Twas a lovely SUV, an inexplicably queenly offer. They're even coming to the castle to collect it. Tonight, we feast! An offer you can feast on. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.